be Valentine. But you also have the privilege that most of the time either we are visiting groups that are organizing dinners. Like yesterday night we had a dinner with a group.
Wow.
And that has happened for several years now. And what you realize is that different churches and groups, they organize Valentine dinner where you take your wanaitwa nani?
Mupoa.
Permanent. And we had a lovely time. You know, we were there until past 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Yes, we were getting back to our house at 2 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
So nyinyi Valentines mpende msipende mtajipata tu mahali mkiongea na watu
tunaenjoy na watu.
We are also planning to have you with a group of young the guys we went on premarital classes together. Tunataka kufika bay. Tunataka kufika bay. We realized we need that. We need some sense brought our way.
It is important. I think just like we said the other time, you prepare so much for the career. But we realize you don't prepare as much for a 70 years God giving you life of togetherness. So every opportunity you have to equip yourself, go for it.
Wow. So Mrs. Macharia, it seems like gifts are a big thing to the ladies. Wanasema jana hata SMS wakupata, wengine wanasema hata hiyo relationship nilimaliza. Kukosa maua ama zawadi kwa Valentine's Day, is it reason enough to call that relationship quit?
Gifts are very important, especially if one of your love languages is gifts. They also form the basis of any love relationship. For God so loved the world, he gave. So normally when there is love, it normally is accompanied by some giving, whether gifts are your language or of love or not. Now, having said that, it can be a bit frustrating, I get, but it's not reason enough to leave a relationship. Because there's some people actually who woke up. Yesterday I had some people say, I was wondering, why are people carrying red things? Why are people in red? It didn't occur to them that it was Valentine's. So first of all, maybe you should establish exactly why did you forget to send me something. Then number 2, did you yourself said that person something? Because it's either way. You can provoke. If you said me something, even if I wasn't remembering, like, oh, it's Valentine's, let me send you something. So it's either way, but it's never a reason enough to really put over a relationship. You can work around it. Talk to the person and air your expectations.
What about these ones who are not communicating? I don't think communicating ni pesa, si kama pesa ya doli. Ama ya unga ya ngano, imekuwa keki. So Mr. Boychild hapa, mwingine alipeana break jana. Of all the days, let's take an audit.
No, I think as Anne has said, being able to give whatever is important, even it's not possible because of maybe distance and the current situations and so on, you cannot fail to call the person or even to text or even to WhatsApp or whatever other means and just to indicate you still love this person.
Wow.
So talking is important. Failure to do that, there's a problem.
There's a problem.
Yes.
Let me ask you a personal question.
Yes, please.
How often do you gift each other gifts?
No, first is that every anniversary, that must be there. There has to be. And sometimes you push yourself beyond. Yeah, normally I've been taken to hotel that I normally would not take myself, you know.
Socks.
Nashtuliwa wanapelekwa kule, you know. The big praise, yeah. So that is very, very important. There are those other moments, like most of the time, although this has been a fasting period, tukitoka hapa, it is time to treat, you know, each other.
Nice one.
And it's not necessarily not from me, it can also comes from her. So what we are simply saying is, make Valentine to be daily life, where you are really exchanging your feelings, your love for each other. But even on that material day, celebrate. Yesterday we had our girls in Alliance having a very nice time.
Wow.
And chocolates, flowers, cake.
Ooh.
Every class. And it was very nice. They were so excited.
So
that means that it is good.
It's a big thing for girls. Boys' schools are tonga together.
Boys will be wondering what is all this, Something to mention this is that, remember, most of men, this thing of self-expression and so on, it is still a struggle to many men.
Ni kweli.
And therefore, we cannot rule it out. I know our ladies are working very hard to help us to really understand this thing, but it is still a struggle to many men to be able to express it, and even to go out there and buy something and say, or even to say Happy Valentine. So it's something that people be deliberate about.
So this listener here, married for 8 years, hata zawadi hajawahi pata, hata gifts nini, feel like alinipata, alinioa, akafunga mambo. Wezi enda, shaenda kwao.
Yes. I think there's somebody who mentioned that, I don't know if it's today or yesterday, that most of the time men akisha funga hiyo bao, kishaweka mtu kwa box. Now the thrill of the hunt is no longer there. And that is a failure from men. If you want happiness in your marriage, keep on courting each other. The things that you are doing when you are looking for her, keep on doing it. That is really what makes marriage interesting. It's what makes things, even if it's a usual friend out there, what happens? You tell each other, let's go for a football match.
Yes.
Let's go take coffee. Let's go do ABCD. If you find something that will be of interest to them, you come with it for them. So why do you want this one now to stay at home with the children, and you don't want really to revitalize, to keep it joyful, to create some momentum in your marriage? What happens is that people develop into a habit. And that habit, it becomes very difficult to kill it. Let alone when you want to come and now you're thinking my marriage needs to have fire. You realize the other person already build a certain way of doing things. And you'll have lost it.
Wow.
Just to mention, yesterday we were talking about stages of marriage and communication thereof. And what happens is that when people are not able to handle a certain stage, what happens is that it moves on to the next stage, becoming even more difficult. And you realize at a particular time now when you're thinking, I think I need to get closer to my wife or to my husband, but this person is thinking, this person is just pretending. Why now? Reminds me of a movie one time we saw, where they get married and the wife comes and cooks. And the guy thinks, unless she wants to kill me. He even goes out to call the friend. Imagine she has cooked. So let's make it a habit.
Make it a habit. There's a question that was asked in the earlier, in the show, mapema leo, asubuhi, if it's okay to borrow money to make a loved one happy. Or maybe, I don't know, I think it was meant to relate to whatever people do, jana and stuff. But is it okay to borrow money to meet the needs of your partner in the form of maybe gifts or just to,
I think before Anne comes in, from my perspective, here we have said it is important to be authentic. It's important to be real. If you don't have, please don't go getting loans. You set expectation that you may not be able to sustain. And it is important that come the way you are. Let's see your openness, your heart. And many times we ask the young people, and I think it's Anne who was asking somewhere, you who is expecting him to do ABCD, what have you done? Maybe you finished school together. You are all starters in the job. You have not accumulated You even know maybe how much he has or she has. What is it that you're expecting this person to go over and above? If you start with loans now, what happens when you're inside the marriage?
Going to be a tough one.
It will be
This is
tough.
Macharia.
Yeah. I also want to echo what Peter has said, that don't go beyond what you can do. But the key thing is communicate to the person. Don't just keep quiet. Somebody is expecting a gift, a rose, a cake, chocolate. You have no money, then you put a wall. Let them know that I'm like this. I love you so much with the whole of me from here to the moon and back. But today, I really do not have money.
Na wacha tukwamia
But
hapo
I'll
kwa
get it
stars.
tomorrow.
Tutafika kwa moon pesa ikipatika. It's good that we just had that conversation. Today we're talking about success in marriage, and the question I've asked up kwa this post I've made is, how does a successful marriage looks like? I don't know if that is one and the same with what we are going to talk about here.
Yes.
When we are talking about success in marriage, or rather, you guys give me the topic. What are we intending to communicate this afternoon when you're talking about success in marriage?
Thank you. This is normally the first topic that we handle when we are taking people through premarital counseling, because we believe that before you set yourself into something, you need to start with the end in mind. You need to think now, how will my marriage look like? So it is being careful. You're talking about success in marriage, but you are doing this long before you get into the institution of marriage. Because we talk about certain commitments that both of you need to agree on long before. And during our time, we documented. We had that notebook that we wrote and made some commitments that ourselves we shall follow. And we have not broken those commitments.
Okay, kosa ukiona umetolewa ile kitabu mliandika. Unajua kuna kitu.
What we did, I think both of us also wrote it in our hearts that we have never had the need to get the book. But we can still remember that we said this and this and this we need to do, because people get the shock once you get in. I think like last time we talked about the shock that came when a gentleman found that the wife had a daughter that he was not aware about. We are not getting serious about discussing important issues before into marriage. So this topic, we want to look at it as really thinking about being strategic, seeing ahead, looking at what success will look like when you are inside the marriage. What commitments should we make now when we are still courting? Am I comfortable with those commitments? And we normally say, we look for the right mate, but are we the right mate ourselves?
Okay.
If I was given myself for marriage, would I want to marry myself?
Naweza enda kwanza seminar, conference kadhaa. Wow. Mrs. Macharia,
Yes.
what are some of these commitments? What are some of these conversations?
Okay.
A lady jana alivikwa pete, alisema yes I do. Akapiga nduru town, nilikuwa mcheki. Nilikuwa nakaa kwa kona ndiye akisema no, niende niongeleshe ndugu yangu before.
He faints.
Yeah, what are some of these we are looking at success in marriage before we get there. What are some of these hard conversations that a lady needs to have?
Okay. One of the things that you need to have is to have a commitment to permanence. Have it in your mind that you're getting into this thing, not for 2 days, not until he stops loving me. No, you should have a mindset of permanence. So the first thing that a lady should have in their mind is that it's not until he is fired. It's not until maybe he gets unwell. The other day I listened to a conversation between two ladies, and they were asking themselves, supposing he gets incapacitated, what would you do? And one of them said, there was a very interesting discussion. I mean, I don't want to discuss what they said, but have a mindset that you're not in this thing for 2 years, for 3 years, or until this. It's until death. Now, once your mind is committed to permanence, you almost have an eternal value for the marriage. And that changes the dynamics. Because if you do something wrong, I know I'm not going anywhere. In my mind, I know. However much sometimes you have a voice and the internet and everybody running away from marriage, you know that you have a godly perspective of permanency of marriage. So that will influence how you treat the other person. If they need forgiveness, I'll grant it. Because I'm not going anywhere. Do I have a choice? I need to forgive him. Because it's the person I've chosen. I need to love with the whole of my heart because I know I don't have another chance at this. I'm not thinking of another. There can be another, but I'm not thinking of another. So I love this person wholeheartedly. Then I'll be patient with him. Very patient. Because I'm here to stay. So a commitment to permanence changes the dynamics of the relationship and your perspective of marriage. Where you love the other person just as God has loved you. Now the Bible tells us to love the Lord God with all our heart, mind and soul, and also our neighbors. So loving somebody like that is loving them unconditionally. And that is very important. And it can only happen if you have a mind, a preset mind on permanence. Otherwise, utasema, no, I owe you nothing. That time I know what I'm doing. I'm giving myself like 5-10 years. If you don't change, I walk out. In that case, you create an atmosphere of toxicity.
Kuna chama ultimatums.
Exactly. Ultimatums, if you don't do this, I will walk out. Even if I don't verbalize it, I know it in my mind that I'll walk out one day. Nothing makes sense. Why should I work so hard? Why should I even buy you gifts? Really? And one day I plan on leaving. So committing yourself to a perspective of permanence, very, very important.
Wow.
Very important.
Maybe before we move out of that point, there are two benefits to that. You know, when you enter into marriage knowing that I'm there for keeps. First is that I'll not joke around relationships. I need to know, is this the right person that I would want to spend the rest of my life? You'll spend with that person longer time than you have been with any of your relatives. Therefore, you cannot be casual. Don't get into marriage before you are sure in your heart that this is the person I want to be with the rest of my life. The second thing is, once you're inside that marriage and you know there's nowhere you are going, you'll work hard for your marriage to succeed. You go there and know, despite the fact that ABCD happens, what can I do? What is my role to make this marriage a success? Being deliberate about issues, taking your time to think through. Now, that opportunities of taking each other out, thinking about how can we be greater friends, how can we spend more time together, becomes very important. So that is normally the first commitment that couples must commit to. If you tell somebody we are getting into this, and we are in it for keeps. Uona mtu anasema akikiumana I can jump the next point to you and say, you'll not get into it.
I also believe that, before you even get married and that is your commitment to each other, it's for permanency, automatically there's a boundary that is, it just forms. When it comes to the influence from outside forces and also sijui uliona nani nataka ukue kama nani mbona uyuko hivi, there's that boundary that I feel like needs to be there even before people get to marriage. It's not that now pete ndio inakuamsha asubuhi haya so mimi siwezi angalia mtu tena, haya mimi ni bibi ya mtu so siwezi pata message kutoka, like when before then that is the mindset, that is the agreement, then I think you get into marriage being in a happier place than what waja commit to such a term. Wow.
Very true.
So in short unasema kuna room for error hapa, ni whatever error will come will correct. We are two.
We are two, and when what God has joined together, first is that what I know is that God does not start something that he cannot complete.
Ni Bible verse imekuwa kama cliche, lakini ni very powerful. When you think of it, it's very powerful. Allow us to get to break up to ingie kwa biashara, then we come back, we continue with the conversation. We're talking about how success in marriage. And we just want you to talk about success in marriage and think of it, and as Mr. Macharia and Mrs. Macharia did, even write it down before you get there. Agree on what will make your marriage successful. Nice one.
Shajara ya biashara na Dolly Mwirigi.
Safari za moja kwa moja za ndege za kampuni ya Kenya Airways kati ya Nairobi na Mogadishu nchini Somalia zimerejelewa hii leo. Hii ni baada ya kusitishwa kwa muda tangu mwaka 2020 kutokana na kuenea kwa janga la corona lililokumba ulimwengu. Kulingana na meneja mauzo na huduma kwa wateja katika kampuni ya Kenya Airways, Julius Thairo, mipango hiyo ni sehemu ya mikakati ya Kenya Airways ya kupanua huduma za
Just having a good laugh here, talking about expectation. I think the Macharias tunafaa kuweka expectations versus reality kwa hii conversation before tumalize hii series tuko nayo.
Yes.
I'm not sure that I was telling you off air hapa hivyo watu watanichekelea, and I'm very serious man. We're still here talking about success in marriage. We've talked about Mrs. Macharias has talked about first of all, knowing that you are here, you're getting into this place with a permanent mentality. It's for life. And you also echoed what she was saying. What are some of the things that we need to deal with, that will indeed bring us to a successful marriage, even before we get into this place? Permanency tumeshaweka tick.
The other important commitment that a couple needs to think about and to agree on is commitment to a faithful relationship. Faithfulness is so critical. In the past, we talked about trust. We talked about somebody knowing that you're not mixing this person with other people. And you see faithfulness, how important it is, that even it was put among the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Commandment number 7. People nowadays are getting very casual. You have this person that you have agreed, or you're married, or you're planning to get married, but you can still engage in casual sex. What it does is that it kills trust. And once trust is broken, to rebuild it, it's a very big challenge. So people need to look at it from a point of, would I want the other person to do that for me? The moment you put yourself in the other person's shoes, then you realize, is it worth it?
Mr. Bashir, is it just agreeing to faithfulness, or is it something you agree and you observe and you?
To me, it should actually be ingrained in you. It should be really part of your living. That this person that I have chosen, I cannot entertain any other person. It's part of you. It's not even, but you see, the moment now you get into a relationship, it's like you have committed yourself. I cannot do ABCD. You know that you have certain limits. In offices, you'll hear there is a job wife, or a job husband, and so on. And people may not get into many other things. But there's also emotional, we call it emotional what? And that entanglement. You get entangled somebody else emotionally. That you have given them all the emotions. Even when you get home, you feel there is no connection now at home. You become very, very careful. And we normally say that faithfulness is not just on the areas of sexual relationships. There's the unfaithfulness, emotional unfaithfulness. You're allowing somebody else to take your heart. This is the person you share with everything. You feel comfortable. The moment you see how you see him, now this person you can bear all.
Akivuta kazi una quit.
Hata una quit in protest. You are in solidarity. But there's also unfaithfulness on finances. There's unfaithfulness. Like we talked last time, this gadget is causing a lot of unfaithfulness.
That's true.
So there are many aspects of unfaithfulness that people need to. And we normally say, if once you get into this marriage, because we say the last stage, and this we should only do it when you're inside, and that is now the physical intimacy. If you will end up really being vulnerable to this person, completely allowing this person to have full access of you, then what should those hidden quotas be? That means really that should be the most openness that one can be. That you can completely undress in front of this person. That means you can also undress in all other aspects. Faithfulness, it means you will carry yourself as an ambassador of your home, of your family, of your relationship, wherever you will be. So that if tomorrow my girlfriend or my boyfriend visits my place of work, people are not looking at him in a fishy way. They are left smiling in a funny way, and you start feeling, what is going on here? It should be somewhere that when she walks in, people respect her because I carry myself with respect. I carry myself with dignity, And everybody can say, oh, this is the lucky husband, the lucky wife to this person because of what they see. Commitment to a faithful relationship.
Wow. Boy child unasikia. Hata I think the you're saying ingrained, it should also be on the lady's side as it
Both.
is on the guy's side. Wow. This is Macharia.
Yes.
Ladies.
The lady also, and I want to come from the point of this has been my buddy even before I met my husband, because that is normally the narrative.
Okay.
I knew John before I met you, Peter. So you can't separate us.
Unaguza kawaya.
So by the time you get committed to this person, there is what we called a little earlier boundaries, including how I relate with other people. Not only even the men, even my girlfriends. Like not before I get married, they can come, or they used to come to my bedroom, tunalala, tunakula, tunakaa tu, you know, there's nobody else. We are girls, and that is it. The moment now I got married and I had to stay in the same house for a while, they knew that there are places that they may not be able to access. Right? So such boundaries are very, very important. So let's say this, that every girl, you might have had a friend who is a boy. Don't drag them into your marriage. Don't drag them. I am not saying that you cut the friendship, and you need to have people who are men and your friends, but keep your boundaries. Otherwise, I'll be running from work, napitia John, tunaongea about Peter. By the time I get home, I'm looking at him, there's somebody I'm talking to about him. It changes everything and what I am. Now, the human mind, once it gets committed to one person, and you decide this is it, this is Peter and that is it. Now you tune yourself to him and you concentrate on him. Now the rest, now take another position, another place, and that's fine. And they should keep them as friends, but there's a boundaries. There's a level beyond which we can't go because I value this relationship. Interestingly, people want to keep those people that they were friends with. They interfere even with their marriages because nataka kupitia to spend time na John, nitaenda home 3 a.m. Provided I'm not sleeping with him. But what is it doing emotionally to this marriage? And that is what Peter called emotional unfaithfulness.
And boy child wameitwa insecure when they say, no, now you're my wife. Mimi sifurahi vile mnaongea kwa simu na Kariuki. And then the lady is like, no, if you're insecure, you cannot handle it. Is that insecurity? Or there are levels it can get that it becomes insecure. But there are guys who communicate in a, I feel like, yes, I know he's your friend. Hey, but, this is too much. I don't like it.
If I go faster, love has aspects of it that are very strong. The Bible says that love is stronger than death.
Ooh.
Now, love requires that I have bits and bits of jealousy here and there. It cannot be the same. The moment I have a commitment to love you, you cannot be having every other girl hang around you like that in a way that I'll definitely feel offended. And I feel you're not keeping your boundaries. So love is very strong. And God says he's a jealous God. He doesn't share his glory with anyone. So love is like that. So it has jealousy that is very good, by the way. And you need to be careful about the other person. Like we said earlier, always try to think, if I were him, would I want to say that? Put yourself in the other person's shoes. So I have boyfriends who are hanging around me and all that, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling him he's insecure. Supposing I found him with girls doing that, how would I feel?
So does that start changing when now you guys are serious about marriage? You're in courtship, you're heading to marriage. Should that start happening when you're there? Or ni mwingie kwa marriage? Kuna wanangoja kiingia kwa marriage just kiyo hani mwambia unajua sasa wewe ni wangu sasa na nimekuwa nikikuona vile unatembea na mtu fulani. When should this be implemented, or rather when should these conversations rise? Because boy child wananyamaza, wanangoja tu ngoja nifunge bao. Kufunga bao sasa anakuwa
yes. remember, we said when you're preparing for marriage, it is time to put your house in order. And part of it will be the relationships that you carry along. So you can't say that you'll wait until wakati umeingia into marriage. Some people wait until the night before, and then so that you immediately now you swear to yourself. Once I'm married,
amenuna.
no, there's the time that you went and now you said, I've narrowed down to this person. Once you narrow down to that person, you cannot be hugging every other Tom, Dick, and Harry, and this person now is there wondering, where am I in all this? I'm taking more time. Assume we even go to the same church, but you still are continuing with Janet, and you're ignoring me when I'm here. The writer of Song of Solomon, I think chapter 2:15 says, "Catch for us the little foxes, the little foxes that destroy." We sometimes wait for the big things, but it is those small things that keep on. I'm getting jealous. I'm feeling unvalued. I'm feeling what is my position? And somebody asks you, who do you carry me for? You know, who am I in all this in equation? The moment you start specializing, now you have said it is this person. You are working towards building your relationship even before you get into real courtship. It's a time for you to start dropping the baggage. Don't bring unwanted people into this relationship. Otherwise, you start complicating things. And the moment somebody feels, I'm not so certain about where I stand in this, what happens is that some people may decide to step aside. You lose a relationship that could have really was the best for you.
So ile statement ya before to date alikuwa best yangu, na hata to date ni best yangu, hata tukimari atakuwa tu best yangu, wewe jipange, be ready for that.
As Anne said, bestie, but with boundaries. Boundaries become important in relationship and in marriage. Otherwise, you will destroy what you are building. Even before it has taken root, you destroy it.
Wow. Let me ask a quick one.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I have questions hapa sana. There is this thing. Innocently, like you have a friend, and then there is now you're dating. You're actually courting. You have your girlfriend, and then your girlfriend say, "Mi sionangi ule rafiki yako vizuri, kuna venye, or even the guy is like, kuna ule beste yako, mi simuonangi vizuri." Like I don't know if that is jealousy. Like you see threat where maybe at the moment there is no threat in the form of ule kuna venye ni rafiki yako, lakini ule akipatiwa nafasi. So you find kuna kwanga wewe unasema ni beste yangu tu, hakuna kitu. What should be the approach to such conversations? Because I also had one very innocent my wife. Now when she saw, she was like, huyu simsomi vizuri. Of course iliisha tu hivyo, but what should be the response to a place where this loved one wewe unapenda tu, unaenda kuoa na kuambia kuna ule jamaa miro yangu impendi, kuna venye
yeah. Maybe before Anne comes, many a times is because we don't follow through with the right questions. Because first trying to understand what is it that makes you uncomfortable with this person. Sometimes, and maybe it could be just another lady. But now she's asking me, what is it that you don't like about my friend? And I can't be able now to stipulate the way I think her lifestyle. I don't think that lifestyle is, and as we all know, even if you put one rotten tomato in a sack of many others, this one can spoil all the others. So if I am feeling that my husband or my wife is working in people with values that are not aligned with what we think we should be establishing in our relationship or in our marriage, then in that case, I would want to point it out and caution her. But do I go to an extent in pointing out? Some people say, it's just a hunch. No, that is not good enough. It's good for you to let me know what is it in that person that makes you feel uncomfortable with this relationship?
Nice one.
If it is a well-established, most likely the other person will also agree. And what you do is that you don't want dropping your friendships like that, but you find a way of disengaging slowly in a way that it should not mess your long-term relationship.
And in the same breath, it's also good for couples to know that there will be those friends that we have that are common between us. So and so is our friend. But also, there are those friends who are his friends and not necessarily my friends. They are acquaintances. They can come to my house. I will cook for them. I'll entertain them. But they are not necessarily my friends. So it's good to have those kind of boundaries and to have that understanding that there are those of my friends also who are not necessarily his friends. And awajua, he knows them. And they can say hi. And sometimes even if he fights them in a matatu, maybe he can pay fare or give them a lift and stuff like that. But they're not necessarily his friends. But that understanding is also very, very important. But again, if your spouse raises an issue with someone, please take it seriously. Because there are lengths we go with our buddies at the jeopardy or at the detriment of our long-term relationship. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? So look at all those dynamics. What are you likely to lose at the expense of keeping your friend who you meet over coffee or on a weekend? They go to their husband, they go to their place of work, but I've got to be home with my spouse every day. So there's a lot to lose. When somebody raises an issue, they're not saying you drop them, but maybe what they're suggesting is reduce your level of interaction or engagement with that person. And it's important to respect that. Yeah.
Somebody is asking here, and this is the now generation, wanauliza, does sex sustain a relationship before getting into marriage? In this conversation of things that we are speaking about right now, that will get us into a successful marriage, should sex be in the mix?
An important question, especially nowadays.
I take a test drive.
Sorry.
It's okay. On
our first day, when we said, how do you know that he or she is the one? We talked about a model. And we said, intimacy should be the last thing. What happens is that most of the time, sex destroys relationship. You have nothing to look forward to. When we were courting, there is that one that I looked, you can't wait for the day of the wedding. You see, there's something that you're looking forward to. And what happens is that when you introduce the sex early, is that it closes you from getting to know the person in other aspects. Because now every time you meet, you become physical. Whenever you see the person, you see them from that perspective. I'm not seeing the Christian girl. I'm not seeing the girl who has the values that I'm looking for. I'm not seeing somebody we can build the future together. Every time we meet, that is one of the things that we do. And people must know how to delay gratification. And this, the aspect of marriage, you will have her or you'll have him for the next 50 years, 70 years, God giving you years. Therefore, you can be deliberate so that you get time to dig deep into understanding the other person and to establish, are we together? Can we walk in the same direction? So don't involve physical intimacy early in your relationship. How well do you know the person? Can you trust this person? From there, can you rely on them? That now you know they can cover your back before you can commit to them. And once now you commit, and now commitment is what we're getting into now because we're talking about the commitments. Then after that is the physical intimacy. And physical intimacy, the ideal situation, really what as a Christian one should do, wait until marriage.
Wow. I know time. I think we have 4 minutes, and I would like all the pointers that you guys had to get to share. I think you've talked about 3 so far, or rather, I've picked 3. But we've talked about so many things here. What are some of these things? These people who are in love, who are getting into marriage should be focusing on in terms of conversation and agreeing on for them to have that successful marriage they so desire? What are some of the pointers maybe you haven't mentioned?
Okay, the other commitment that people should really get into is cooperative relationship, a supportive relationship. What happens is that either there is one person who is being driven into marriage or being married, and we don't see that we need both of us to be innate in our fullness. You know, we are nurturing like a baby who has been born. When pastors join people in a wedding, they say what you have become
One.
but then we maintain certain individuality. The one who was created, if I may use that word, during the wedding becomes emaciated because that they're not being fed.
Yeah.
You know, instead of looking into ways where this one becomes stronger, we tend to continue. And that's why we talk about there is dependence syndrome that comes in sometimes. There is independence mindset that sometimes comes. But you're talking about interdependence, where we know we actually not need each other. We want each other.
Want it. So hakuna ile room ya alipropose na helicopter singekataa. Alilia machozi.
No. That is a mistake, because the same way ulilia machozi when he came in that helicopter will also fly away, you know. And you know what we are also saying? When you are in this cooperative commitment to cooperate in everything, you also respect each other's contribution.
That's true.
Nobody will become the star. You know, had it not been for me, now you run to realize this other person is contributing as much as myself. And that's why we say in a relationship, you don't bring 50%, you bring 100%. Irrespective of what the other person is bringing. You influence them by remaining the person that you committed even before you got married, and being consistent in that. The other person also turns. So that cooperative relationship, choosing to cooperate, choosing to work together, you will see it when people are planning for marriage. One abdicates their responsibilities. You know, we have attended weddings where they are not even talking to each other because of the things that have happened. You know, there's one who even ran away with the money, and now you have to look for more. And also tells you how supportive will you be of each other once you are inside that relationship. So cooperation. Start cooperating the moment you start working together. One of the things that we did, actually, before we got married, I didn't have a TV. And therefore, I think we decided we are going to buy a TV together. And I remember her giving me money. Yes. Now, because we start seeing, once we get into this marriage, what kind of a house will she want to come in? There are a few things that we started working towards this. Because I had just left college 1 year before her. It's not that I had been able to do much. And a number of other things that she was able to support me. And we are now working towards that same one. Then there is one other. And I think because of time, I know Anne will also chip in.
Could just mention
Christ-centered relationship. The closer me and Anne get closer to Christ, you remember that triangle that is normally given? If you are Christ and she is there, I'm here. And me, I'm coming nearer to you. But Anne is getting further. Our relationship also tends to get further. And this we are talking to Christian young people, that they know the more they get closer to each other, closer to God, the more the triangle narrows to once. And that's why we want Christ to be the third strand in your marriage. Any cord that has 3 strands normally cannot be broken easily. When it is just 2, normally somebody can just break it very easily.
That's true.
That's why we need Christ to be part and parcel of this intertwine, and your marriage will be successful.
Nice. Now have those conversations, make those decisions. Wish you all the best in your marriages. Umesikia sikukula roma smoky na nini, have these conversations, agree on these things. All the best. Thank you so much, the Macharias.
Thank you.
Karibu.
This has been awesome. Kuna watu hapa wamesema tunabadilika.